You woke up tired this morning. Not exhausted, not sick, just not right. You ate yesterday, you slept, you did everything you were supposed to do. And still, by 2 p.m., there was a fog you couldn't shake. A hunger that came back too soon. A heaviness after lunch you couldn't explain. Tens of millions of Americans describe the exact same feeling. Same fatigue, same bloating, same hunger that never quite resolves. That's not a coincidence. That's a signal. And today, we're going to follow it. Think about the last loaf of bread you bought from a grocery store. How long has it been sitting there? A week? 10 days? Still soft? Still holds together? No mold in sight? Now think about what bread actually is. Flour, water, yeast, organic matter. Left on a counter, real bread should go stale within days. That's biology working exactly as designed. So why doesn't grocery store bread do that anymore? Because it was designed not to. The FDA currently allows over 3,000 direct additives in the American food supply. A significant portion of them exist for one purpose: to suppress the biological breakdown that would otherwise tell you this food is done. Here's the number that tends to stop people cold. Research out of UC Davis found that the average apple in an American grocery store is between 6 and 12 months old by the time you buy it. And it still looks fresh. That's not freshness, that's chemical stability. And those are two completely different things. The food didn't get better, it got more controllable, more predictable for trucks, warehouses, and distribution timelines. The biological relationship between food and your body was never really part of the equation. The effects aren't immediate. You don't sit down to dinner, eat something wrong, and feel it an hour later. The feedback loop is stretched across 12, 24, sometimes 48 hours. The bloating shows up the next morning. The brain fog hits mid-afternoon the following day. The energy crash comes at a time you associate with stress, not with last night's meal. And when the signal is that delayed, the brain stops connecting it to a cause. The symptom becomes normal, and once something feels normal, it stops registering as a warning. Because the data underneath that personal experience is not subtle at all. According to the CDC, more than 70% of American adults are now overweight or obese. Over a third are pre-diabetic. Food allergies in children increased by more than 50% in a single generation. Autoimmune conditions are climbing every year. The human genome does not recognize itself in 30 years. Individual habits don't spontaneously converge into population-wide metabolic breakdown. Systems do that. Food supplies do that. Because there's a problem with the American food system that has nothing to do with what's in the food. It's the pace at which it's produced. The average commercial chicken in America today reaches slaughter weight in about 6 weeks. In the 1950s, that same process took 12 to 16 weeks. The bird didn't evolve to grow twice as fast. That acceleration changes the meat, tissue structure, fat distribution, nutritional composition. The same logic applies to plants. Research published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition tracked nutrient levels across dozens of fruits and vegetables, comparing mid-century samples to today. The findings showed measurable declines in magnesium, zinc, iron, and vitamin C. The reason is straightforward. Faster growth means less time in the soil absorbing minerals. You can grow a tomato in 3 weeks, but it carries a fraction of the nutritional content of one that took 8. The calories are still there. What your body is actually looking for, the minerals, the fiber, the biological structure it evolved to use, has quietly thinned out. This is why so many people describe the same feeling after eating: full, but not satisfied. Fed, but not energized. Constantly craving something they can't name. That craving is real. It's not a lack of willpower. It's the body scanning for nutrients the food was supposed to deliver and coming up short. More than 57% of daily caloric intake in the United States now comes from ultra-processed products. These aren't just convenient foods, they are formulations, built from refined ingredients, industrial additives, and flavor engineering, designed to be shelf-stable, visually consistent, and neurologically irresistible. The industry has a term for it: the bliss point. the precise calibration of sugar, fat, and salt that produces the maximum reward response in the human brain. It's the design principle behind most products in the center aisle of every grocery store in America. When a food hits that calibration, your brain doesn't just enjoy it, it encodes a craving. It goes looking for that exact stimulus again. That's not nourishment, that's conditioning. And the structure of these products makes it worse. Whole foods slow you down. Fiber, water content, varied textures, they take time to consume and give your body time to register fullness. Ultra-processed food compresses that experience. By the time your satiety signals arrive, you've already eaten past them. The philosophy behind food safety regulation in the United States has quietly shifted. It used to operate on a simple principle: prove something is safe before it goes into the food supply. Today, it operates on a different one. Remove something after the harm becomes impossible to deny. Those are not the same standard. The FDA uses a category called GRAS, generally recognized as safe. In practice, companies can self-certify an ingredient as safe based on available evidence and expert consensus, without mandatory independent long-term testing. Thousands of compounds entered the American food supply this way. Compare that to the European Union, which follows a precautionary principle. If long-term safety data is unclear or incomplete, a substance doesn't get approved until that data exists. That single philosophical difference explains why hundreds of additives perfectly legal in the United States are either banned or heavily restricted in Europe. The same global food brands often sell different formulations depending on which market they're operating in. Same product, different recipe. Cheaper inputs, longer shelf life, faster production get rewarded. Health outcomes that surface 10 or 20 years later don't show up on a quarterly earnings call. This is the part that implicates all of us, because this shift didn't happen against what consumers wanted, it happened because of it. According to USDA data, the average American now spends less than 30 minutes a day on food preparation, compared to over an hour in the 1960s. Schedules compressed, the food system adapted to meet real demand. And when convenience becomes the priority, specific biological trade-offs follow automatically. Fiber complexity decreases because it makes texture inconsistent and shortens shelf life. Fermentation disappears because it's slow, variable, and can't be standardized at scale. And the gut microbiome, which depends on diverse microbial inputs to stay balanced, gets fewer and fewer of what it needs. Over time, the body adjusts. Whole food starts tasting bland by comparison. Cooking starts feeling like an unreasonable demand on limited time. And in the background, largely invisible, metabolic dysfunction climbs steadily across every age group. People don't feel like they're making irresponsible choices. They feel like they're getting through their day. That's the quiet cost. Short-term friction disappears. Long-term biological resilience pays for it. So step back and look at the full picture. Food is information. Biologically, that's exactly what it is. What you eat every day isn't just fuel, it's active instruction delivered to your metabolism, your immune system, your gut, your neurological chemistry, multiple times a day, every day, for your entire life. And right now, more than half of what the average American consumes has been engineered primarily for shelf stability, supply chain efficiency, and neurological reward. The nutritional density has thinned. The biological rhythms have been stripped out. Thousands of compounds that didn't exist in the food supply 2 generations ago have been quietly added in. The consequences aren't subtle. Chronic disease rates aren't subtle. Metabolic dysfunction being normalized across every age group isn't subtle. Children developing conditions that used to appear only in late adulthood isn't subtle. And yet the default explanation remains a personal one: discipline, genetics, lifestyle choices. But genetics don't restructure themselves in 30 years. Individual choices don't spontaneously produce population-wide metabolic collapse. Systems do that. The most dangerous part of all of this isn't the shift itself, it's the adaptation. When low energy becomes the new normal, it stops registering as a signal. When chronic bloating becomes just how things are, it stops functioning as a warning. When a whole population adapts to a degraded baseline, the system that created it faces no pressure to correct itself. Your body has been paying attention the entire time. The fatigue, the hunger that returns too soon, the heaviness after meals, that's not failure. That's accurate feedback from a system that has moved a very long way from what it was supposed to do. The question now is simple. Are you going to keep treating those signals as a personal problem? Or are you ready to start listening to what they're actually telling you?